Do you believe in absolute love? Fairfield, a beautiful small town in the United States, was once known as an uneventful place. Those peaceful days were just a covering up the dark secrets and horrifying crimes that were secretly taking place. Imagine the Miller family, Mr. John, Mrs. Susan and daughter Emily, a happy family, live in a cozy wooden house on the edge of town. Every evening their family gathers around the dinner table, laughter echoing throughout the house. Mr. John, a man who loves his family, always does everything to bring happiness to his wife and children. But then one fateful day, a tragic traffic accident took Mr. John's life. His sudden departure left an unfillable void in the hearts of Susan and Emily. The pain of loss seems like nothing can ease it. Mrs. Susan, after a long period of grief, decides to remarry Mr. Oliver, a respectable and well-respected man in town. Thinking that the new marriage would bring happiness and peace to the family, no one could have imagined that Oliver's appearance would open a chain of devastating events, leading to unexpected tragedy. Today we'll explore every step of this story, from secret loves to terrifying murder plots. Let's go deeper with Crime YTB into the storied daughter and stepfather's affair to discover the scary truths behind. After Oliver moved in with Emily and her mother, he always appeared to be a thoughtful and kind stepfather. Initially, Emily and Mr. Oliver maintain a distant and polite relationship. Oliver, with his mature appearance and calm demeanor, seems to be the new fulcrum for the family after the loss. He often helps Emily in her studies and daily life. From the very first days, Oliver has tried to create a warm and friendly environment. He helped Emily with her homework, patiently explaining difficult concepts. Every time she encountered difficulties, he took the time to listen and guide. The advice and encouragement from Oliver helped Emily feel comforted and encouraged. Gradually, Emily began to feel that Oliver's concern was not simply a stepfather's duty but also contained sincerity. Mrs. Susan often has to work late into the night, leaving private space for Oliver and Emily. During those peaceful evenings, the two of them often sat together in the living room, enjoying movies or sharing stories of the day. Long conversations, from humorous stories to profound issues in life, helped them understand each other better. Oliver talks about his past, about his life experiences and the lessons he has learned over the years. Emily, with her bright eyes and sensitive soul, listened attentively, feeling his sincerity and warmth. The connection between Oliver and Emily goes beyond words. The meaningful glances exchanged, the accidental hand touches that made both of them unforgettable. One time, when Emily was intently reading a book, Oliver gently placed his hand on her shoulder, a small gesture that made her heart skip a beat. Moments like that became more and more frequent, creating an indescribable closeness between them. Oliver often looks at Emily with affectionate eyes, the eyes of a man looking at someone he loves. Emily felt it, and her heart began to feel confused. The back garden became a place where Oliver and Emily often visited. Together they take care of the plants, water the flowers, or simply sit together and watch the sunset. During those afternoons they shared their secret thoughts, dreams and aspirations with each other. Oliver tells Emily about his past adventures, the places he's been to, and the people he's met. Emily, young at heart and vulnerable, is fascinated by Oliver's care and concern. She begins to feel loved and protected, a feeling she has lacked since her biological father passed away. One evening, during a fierce storm, the electricity was cut off and the house was plunged into darkness. Susan is working nights at the hospital, leaving Oliver and Emily alone to face loneliness and the sound of the wind whistling outside the window. In the dim candlelight, Oliver and Emily sat next to each other on the sofa. The loud thunder made Emily scared and leaned her head on Oliver's shoulder. He gently held her in his arms, whispering words of reassurance. At that moment, amidst the howling wind and falling rain, their hearts seemed to blend together. The storm outside is a symbol of the emotional storm going on inside them. Oliver felt the softness and warmth of Emily's body, while she felt safe and protected in his arms. The physical closeness further strengthens the spiritual connection between them. That night, the two crossed an invisible line, unable to return to the way they were before. These little details, every look, gesture, and conversation, created a special relationship between Emily and Oliver. The attention and care from Oliver makes Emily feel loved and protected, a feeling she has lacked since her biological father passed away. And from here, devastating events began to arise, leading to an unexpected tragedy. After the gestures and glances exchanged, the feelings between Emily and Oliver became deeper. They know that this relationship is wrong, but the attraction is irresistible. Secret meetings start with accidental touches in the kitchen, whispers when passing each other in the house, and gradually become meetings full of passion and emotion. Every night, when Susan fell asleep, Oliver and Emily secretly met in the back garden. They exchanged hasty kisses, whispered sweet words, but were also full of fear. The dark garden becomes a safe haven for their forbidden love. Oliver often waited until all the lights in the house were completely turned off, then gently left Susan's bedroom to meet Emily. Both know that this feeling is wrong, but they can't stop. Every time they meet, they feel the excitement of forbidden love, the thrill of having to hide it, and the fear of being discovered. Their kisses contain not only passion but also tension and fear of being caught. Emily and Oliver often had to stop mid-sentence, listening to every sound around them to make sure no one was following them. One time, while exchanging passionate kisses under a big tree in the garden, they suddenly heard footsteps. The two quickly separated, Oliver clutching Emily's hand and pulling her into the darkness, heart pounding. It turns out it was just a passing cat, but the moment adds even more tension and passion to their relationship. To keep in touch while they can't see each other, Emily and Oliver begin exchanging love letters. The letters are hidden discreetly under the cushions of chairs in the garden or in old books on shelves. In the letter, they express their secret feelings, words of love, and plans for the future. Oliver occasionally gives Emily small gifts, like a rose picked from the garden or a bracelet made from small stones. Those gifts are not only a symbol of love, but also a promise of a future together. Not only do they meet at night, Oliver and Emily also take advantage of the afternoons when Susan goes to work to be together. They often drive to remote places, away from the prying eyes of townspeople. Those afternoons they walk together in the forest, holding hands along deserted trails. Emily feels free and happy when she is with Oliver, even though there is always a constant fear in her heart. One afternoon, while sitting by the lake, Oliver solemnly proposed his love to Emily. Under the setting sun, they exchanged vows, promising to be together despite all difficulties. It was a moment that Emily will never forget, when she felt truly loved and appreciated. However, the tension in this secret relationship increases. They realized that they could not live forever in darkness and secrecy. Oliver, with his strong and decisive nature, begins to devise plans so that they can be together legally and freely. Emily, although nervous, cannot deny the excitement and anticipation of a new future. The secret love affair between Emily and Oliver becomes increasingly dangerous and complicated. They knew that if discovered, the consequences would be extremely serious, but their passion and irresistible attraction brought them to the brink of a dark conspiracy. Mixed emotions, tension, and suspense all create a dramatic and engaging story. One night, as the moonlight shone through the window, in the passion of forbidden love, Emily and Oliver lay together in the secret room they had rented on the outskirts of town. Intense emotions and stress pushed them to a terrible decision to get rid of Susan so they could live together freely. Oliver, who maintains a calm exterior but has a cruel plan inside, convinces Emily that this is the only way they can be together. Oliver paints a bright future where there is no longer Susan's hindrance, where they can declare their love and start a new life. Emily, caught up in a whirlwind of love and sweet persuasion, gradually believes that this is the only way for them to be happy. Oliver, with his experience, knows exactly what to do to avoid being discovered. He secretly bought a poison from a wandering medicine seller, a colorless, odorless, tasteless medicine, perfect for their cruel plot. Oliver chose the moment to act very carefully. He knew that Susan often had the habit of drinking a glass of wine after dinner to relax. Oliver contacted a drug dealer wandering around a black market. The druggist, a scoundrel familiar with shady dealings, supplies Oliver with a powerful poison that is colorless, odorless, and tasteless. Oliver made sure that no one knew about the purchase of this poison. He even used a fake identity to make the transaction. Oliver and Emily began planning in detail and meticulously. They discussed every possibility, from who would do what to how to escape if discovered. They focused on how to hide the truth and not leave any traces. Oliver took particular care to ensure that Susan's death would look like an accident or a natural death. One fateful evening, when Susan was preparing dinner for the whole family, Oliver and Emily decided to carry out their cruel plan. Emily, with worry written all over her face, tried to keep herself calm while helping her stepmother prepare the meal. Mrs. Susan, unaware of the plot going on, smiled and chatted happily with Emily and Oliver. When Susan went into the kitchen to get dessert, Oliver secretly poured poison into the glass of wine that Susan often drank. Emily stood by, her heart pounding, afraid that Susan would notice something. But Susan did not doubt. She kept a smile on her face and continued to prepare dinner. When everything was ready, all three sat at the dining table. Oliver and Emily tried to act naturally, hiding their inner anxiety and nervousness. Mrs. Susan, after enjoying a delicious meal, as usual, poured herself a glass of wine to relax. Emily and Oliver looked at each other one last time, then followed Susan's every move as she brought the glass of wine to her lips. As soon as Susan drank that glass of wine, everything seemed to slow down. She began to feel pain, clutched her stomach, and collapsed. Oliver pretended to be panicked and took Susan to the hospital, while Emily also appeared panicked, acting perfectly so that no one would suspect. But it was too late. Susan did not survive. At the hospital, Oliver continued to play the role of a heartbroken husband, shedding tears when he heard the doctor announce that Susan had passed away. Emily, with a pale face, stood by, trying not to show any expression that might arouse suspicion. The two had prepared answers to every question that might be asked, trying to conceal their cruel crime. Susan passed away and was diagnosed with a natural death due to food poisoning. Oliver and Emily try to continue their normal lives, but inside they always have a fear of being discovered. They know that the police will investigate, and they have to be very careful not to be exposed. After Susan's death, Oliver and Emily had to live under the supervision of the community and the police. They feel like all eyes are on them, and every conversation carries the risk of being discovered. Emily began having nightmares, often waking up in the night in a cold sweat, fearing that the truth would be revealed. Oliver, although still maintaining his composure, was also always tense inside, constantly checking every detail of the plan to ensure there were no loopholes. One day, while Emily was cleaning her room, she discovered a letter from Susan, written to her before she died. The letter contained Susan's words of love and concern for Emily, as a final goodbye. Reading the letter, Emily felt extremely regretful and guilty. She began to sob, but Oliver came to her side and comforted her, reminding her that they had done what was necessary to be together. Even though their plan seemed perfect, the feeling of guilt and fear of being discovered still lingered. The tension between Oliver and Emily increases, sometimes leading to minor arguments. They know that if the police find any evidence, they will both face serious consequences. Their seemingly perfect plan succeeded, but little did they know that the upcoming investigation would bring everything to light. The sudden death of Mrs. Susan shook the town of Fairfield, where everyone knew each other and peaceful life had become a familiar thing. News of Mrs. Susan's sudden death spread quickly, causing confusion and fear in the community. People could not believe that a woman who was always happy and healthy like Mrs. Susan could pass away so suddenly. The police quickly began an investigation. A team of experienced investigators was sent to the scene to collect all possible evidence. They carefully examined every corner of the house, from the wine glasses, the food on the table, to other samples in the house. Police collected samples from wine glasses, food, and surrounding items. They also sent Susan's body to the forensic laboratory for further analysis. Susan's blood and body fluid samples showed signs of poison, confirming that the death was not an accident or ordinary food poisoning. While waiting for analysis results, police began interviewing those involved. Oliver and Emily were the first to be questioned. Oliver, with his composure and experience, had prepared reasonable answers. Even though Emily tried to stay calm, worry and tension were clearly visible on her face. The police noticed irregularities in the way they responded, but there was not enough evidence to press charges. After receiving analysis results from the laboratory, the police determined that the poison in MS, Susan's body, was a rare type of poison, colorless, odorless, and tasteless. This is the first important clue, showing that Susan's death may have been a carefully planned murder. Police began looking for information about the origin of this poison. They contacted pharmacies and hospitals in the area, but none recorded recent sales or use of the drug. This caused police to turn their attention to black markets and illegal drug dealers. The police also reviewed small but important details in Oliver and Emily's statements. They noticed a few small contradictions in the two people's stories. For example, the time Oliver said he took Susan to the hospital did not match the time Emily described. These inconsistencies, although small, made the police suspicious and decided to investigate further. To find more clues, the police collected and analyzed security camera footage around Susan's house and places where Oliver and Emily often visited. A video from a convenience store near his home showed Oliver buying a bottle of wine on the evening of the incident, which was not part of his statement. The police began to question Oliver and Emily's honesty. Police continued to interview neighbors and friends of Susan's family. A close neighbor said he saw Oliver and Emily acting unusually intimate, which further increased suspicions about the relationship between the two. A friend of Susan's revealed that Susan had talked about feeling uncomfortable with the way Oliver and Emily treated each other, but didn't think it was a serious problem. As the police continue to investigate, the pressure and tension in Oliver and Emily's home increases. They know that the police are getting closer to the truth and begin to fear that all will be revealed. Oliver tries to keep Emily calm, but her stress and anxiety become increasingly apparent. Emily begins to lose sleep and has frequent nightmares about being caught and facing the consequences of her actions. During the investigation, the police decided to check Emily and Oliver's phones and computers. They discovered text messages and emails between Emily and Oliver, revealing their secret relationship and their plan to kill Susan. The messages contained hidden words of love and conversations about how to execute the plot perfectly. The evidence is piling up, from secret phone calls, hidden messages, to buying and selling poison. The police discovered that Oliver had purchased the poison from a wandering drug dealer, a detail that Oliver thought no one would discover. They also found notes about Oliver and Emily's detailed plans, house plans, and notes about when and how the plan would be carried out. The police approached and questioned the poison seller. Initially, he refused to cooperate, but after police threats and evidence of illegal transactions, he was forced to admit to selling poison to Oliver. The drug seller also provided more information about Oliver trying to hide his identity when buying the medicine, but a few small mistakes left important traces. During the search of Oliver and Emily's house, the police found Oliver's notebook. The notebook contained meticulous and detailed plans on how to carry out the murder. Oliver wrote very clearly about every step of the plan, from buying the poison, how to mix it with wine, to how to hide all traces after Susan died. This notebook became irrefutable evidence of Oliver's involvement in the case. A close friend of Emily's was also interviewed by police. This friend revealed that Emily had confided in her about her secret relationship with Oliver and her worries about their plans. This testimony further strengthens the evidence of the two people's conspiracy. When the evidence was strong enough, the police decided to arrest Oliver and Emily. The arrest took place early in the morning, while both were still sleeping. Police entered the house, handcuffed them, and took them to the station for questioning. The whole town of Fairfield was shocked when they heard the news of Oliver and Emily's arrest. No one could believe that these two people could be involved in a murder case. Oliver and Emily are questioned separately. Initially, both denied all accusations, trying to hide the truth. Oliver continued to maintain his composure, offering reasonable excuses, while Emily, despite her efforts to remain calm, had clear anxiety and tension on her face. The police used psychological tactics, gradually pushing them into difficult situations. Under intense and constant pressure from investigators, Emily began to break down. She could not bear the pressure and guilt and began to fall into a state of panic. Emily cried, saying she just wanted to be loved and protected, and that things had gone too far out of her control. Faced with Emily's collapse, Oliver tried to keep his spirits up, but the investigators saw a change in his demeanor. They realized that Oliver could no longer maintain his original composure. Faced with irrefutable evidence in Emily's breakdown, Oliver begins to lose control. He admitted part of the truth, trying to blame Emily to lessen his crime. Finally, under pressure from the police and clear evidence, both Oliver and Emily had to confess their crimes. Emily, in an emotional state, recounts details of her secret relationship with Oliver and her plan to kill Susan. She admits that she was convinced by Oliver and that she did everything out of blind love. Oliver, even though he tried to retain his last bit of dignity, had to admit his entire cruel plan. He explains that he believed that killing Susan was the only way to be able to live happily with Emily, but in the end, truth and justice caught up with them. The investigation came to a conclusion with confessions and the brutal truth revealed. Oliver and Emily must face the consequences of their cruel actions, and justice will be served. Emily and Oliver's trial becomes the most anticipated event in Fairfield. The media flocked to town, and people from all over came to watch the trial. Police and security forces were mobilized to ensure order and safety. Defense lawyers and prosecutors have carefully prepared, ready for a tense legal confrontation. On the first day of the trial, the courtroom was packed with people. Emily and Oliver were escorted into the courtroom, both of their faces showing fatigue and worry. The prosecutor opened the trial by presenting the entire case, from Susan's death to the evidence collected during the investigation. All eyes were on the two defendants. No one could believe that these people could commit such a horrifying crime. The trial became more tense as witnesses began to testify. Neighbors, friends, and acquaintances of Susan's family took the stand to tell what they knew about the relationship between Oliver and Emily, as well as their strange actions before and after Susan's death. One witness said that Oliver and Emily had inappropriately intimate gestures when they happened to meet them in the backyard. Another witness revealed that Susan had been worried about the closeness between her husband and her stepchild. The prosecutor presented evidence one by one, from secret text messages and emails, notes on murder plans, to toxicology analysis results. These evidences not only clarify the truth but also clearly show the cruelty and coldness in the murder plan of the two criminals. Oliver's notebook, containing meticulous details of the plan, was introduced as key evidence. The courtroom was suffocatingly silent as this evidence was announced, each detail exposed to everyone's eyes. Oliver and Emily's defense attorneys, in turn, tried to portray their clients as victims of circumstance. They argue that Emily is just a young girl manipulated by Oliver, and that Oliver is motivated by blind love and hatred for an unhappy life. However, these arguments are unlikely to convince the jury when the evidence clearly shows the initiative and cruelty of both. Emily, in an emotional moment, asked permission to have the last word. She shed tears, admitted all her sins, and expressed deep remorse. She talks about the pain of losing her father, about her forbidden feelings for Oliver and her weakness when caught up in the cruel plan. Oliver, even though he maintained his composure, could not hide his fatigue and defeat. He bowed his head, admitted all his sins, and apologized to Susan's family, as well as the entire community. After hearing all the testimony and evidence, the judge pronounced the sentence. Emily and Oliver were charged with murder and sentenced to life in prison. The verdict was given amid applause from people present in the courtroom. The judge emphasized that this was a cruel and condemnable crime, and that justice had been served. Emily and Oliver's lives were completely ruined by their cruel actions. The horrifying and tragic details of this story will forever serve as a reminder of the terrible consequences that crime brings. Thank you for following the story Daughter and Stepfather Having an Affair on Crime YTB channel. Stay tuned for more horror and dramatic stories only on Crime YTB.